Thank you so much for joining us again, as always. This past week I spoke a message about the Sabbath rest. It was called the Holy Day. And Pastor Andrew, you weren't there, so we're always asking the question, where were you on the Sunday? But we know where you were. But just share a bit of the story about your wife and the delivery and baby Oakley and all this fun stuff.
For sure. First off, I just want to say thank you to everyone who prayed for her and for the baby. Oakley and Melissa, they're doing great. They're really doing well. I would say Melissa feels quite whole, very well through this whole process. And nice. Oakley is just a sweet little boy who he doesn't really cry too much. He probably likes to fuss at night the most, but he's awesome. And so he's really cute and just kind of, I feel like he's one of the smallest of our babies, you know, and we're just like, man, we don't remember how small you were. And so they're doing well. They're resting up at home now. And he was 8 pounds and 21 inches and just this, the second biggest baby Melissa had, but again, just so cute and tiny. Yeah, having fun with him.
That's great. My wife came over just quickly to, I guess, return your children, and she was just saying, like, she had her water bottle. She was like, it just felt like I was holding my water bottle, you know, just like we haven't been around babies, that's, you know, obviously for a long time either, so. Yeah,
it's great to see my girls with him now, especially that Ileana's almost 7 years old. She's just such a natural, like, mom holding him. The other day, she fell asleep on the couch and the baby on the couch at the same time.
Super cute.
So cute. Yeah, it's great. It's great. Well, let me ask you, as we're talking about, you know, rest, you know, and this whole message around Sabbath and Shabbat Shalom, you know, being in Israel, it's just such a, you hear it everywhere, you know, Shabbat Shalom, or you sing the song and you dance around the table, and it's just this fun time of rest, and literally means that seventh day rest. So talk to me about the heart behind why you preach this sermon on Sunday.
I like the idea as you share. It should be fun. It should be exciting. We shouldn't be like, oh, come on, we got to take a day off. This is painful. How am I going to work this in my schedule? It should be like, oh, praise Jesus. I get a day off. I get to have some rest. So if you remember the last couple of months, I've just been wrestling through the Old Testament. I've been reading through, and just felt like every other page as I've been reading is just talking about that Sabbath rest. And God was saying, man, I want this to be something you would observe for generations to come. This is important to me. It's very important to me. I need you to understand it. So I kept reminding them again and again and again. Because in the Old Testament, we read about other kinds of gods that would want sacrifices, like sacrifice your children to me, you know, sexual things. And God was saying, yes, let's sacrifice some animals because of the blood, so we understand what the purpose of the blood was. But he also said, and have a Sabbath, you know, like these are part of what it means to be Christian, what it means to follow God, follow Yahweh. So it was so contrary, so different than the other gods. He said, you know, do that, and that's just like, oh, it's wicked and evil, and then you serve God, and oh, that's kind of, you know, it's so different. So I feel like for you and I, as we live our lives as well in the New Testament, how are we going to live? Because it's not like that where there was these, you know, we don't go to other temples and they're sacrificing children, but there's other ways that people are living their lives that are very contrary to God. And God is saying, I want you to live a way that's very different, so that it's obvious for you and I when we interact with people. We don't have to kind of question, hey, is that person Christian? I'm not quite sure. It should be very obvious, like, you know, we should celebrate being Christian. We should celebrate the things that God has asked of us. So, Yeah,
let's talk a little bit more about that thought, because obviously we're talking about an Old Testament principle here of, you know, take the Sabbath, that seventh day rest. How do we bring that into the New Testament in such a way that we're living it not just in principle, not just legalistically, but that we're doing it from a place where we, you know, it's bringing us into the presence of God, you know, that it is making us look different.
That's right. I love that thought too. I just quickly shared it in the message, is that, you know, when Jesus showed up, you know, you've got the Pharisees and Sadducees that are just like, you know, just legalistic, like, we will follow this thing to the T, right? And God was like, that's actually not right. And then he was saying to people, you know what, not taking the Sabbath and finding rest in me, spiritual rest, that's actually not right either. And he comes right in the center of that, and I love that. Jesus says, let me be the example to you. And I love it when the Pharisees challenge him, like, on the Sabbath day you shouldn't do this and this and this. And God didn't say, you know, you shut up about the Sabbath. We don't do the Sabbath. I'm in the New Testament. I'm Jesus. I'm God. He didn't say that to them, right? He said to them, you're too legalistic. You know, it's okay to, you know, have some food. It's okay to do some healing. It's okay to pray. It's okay to just live your life.
Yeah.
Don't just lay around like, oh, the Sabbath rest is just like, stay in bed. You know, don't do anything because you might sin, right?
Yeah.
Or you might break the Sabbath law. And God's like, no, don't be so foolish. Like, that's so crazy. Just live your life in a way that is honoring to me and finding rest. And you and I were just quickly talking about the idea that leading up to the Sabbath or any kind of rest, and most of us would say Sunday's kind of our day of rest. It's not like you go full throttle and then you're like, oh, finally Sunday. Oh, that was exhausting. I'm here now. Because that's the way that I used to live my life as a non-Christian, right? I'm working all day. And, oh, finally it's the weekend and I can have a beer. Like, that's when I would find some rest. It's not like that. It should be like a daily communal thing, like interacting, just connecting with God. So
good, yeah. Because I see, you know, faith is really that exercise, rest is that exercise in faith.
Yeah.
Just trusting in God's abundance. You know, in the Old Testament we see that they stored up more on the 6th day so that there was that abundance on the 7th day. But the author of the book of Hebrews says, you know, that we're supposed to rest from our works, the works that cause us to stress, the way that the world works, you know, works for provision, works to gain, all of these things, and just says, no, I'm going to trust that God is my provider. I'm not going to trust in my own right arm of strength. I'm not going to trust in my gifts and abilities. I'm not going to trust in my job and my paycheck. God is my paycheck. And it's really that place where, you know, if we can live there, He can take us into our weaknesses. He can take us into places where we're not being paid enough, you know, and all of that kind of stuff. But we just trust Him that He's going to super abundantly provide. And I just want to share a quick story with my wife and I when we were on the mission field. We saw missionaries who fell on that line of their Torah observant, legalistically following the Sabbath, and they approached it like many believers I've seen approach Sunday, with just this like anxiety. You know, oh, I got to prepare everything and make sure, you know, all our meals are ready. And so by the time that the Sabbath came, they were just physically burnt out, you know, and they needed that Sabbath. Whereas others, you know, didn't take the Sabbath at all, and they were burnt out just because their strength, their ministry was the most important. They were being burnt out for their ministry, which again is just contrary to what Jesus says. You know, He says, if you trust in me, abide in my plans for you today, you will have total rest, and you will have authority and power because you're walking in that rest. And it's such a wonderful thing when we can learn to rest in God, man. So good.
I love the idea too that as we live our lives, as you're saying, and we're in the rest, we're in the will of God, that God just takes care of us. But we have to follow these things that God is asking us. And again, it's not about following rules, so we just say, you know, it's about just honoring God and loving God, and it should be enjoyable. And we shouldn't be afraid of anything the world throws at us. And I have this tiny example way back when I first got saved. I was working at a retail position, and there was an opportunity to climb the ladder or get a better position, get more pay. And that Sunday, my church, we were sending a missionary overseas, so we just laid hands on her, sent her off, and they all said, okay, this Wednesday, let's everybody pray and fast for her, because that's when she's getting on the plane. So this position, this lady came and met with me to offer me this position. So we had an interview over lunch, for crying out loud. So I had the menu, and I'm thinking, oh my word, I can't eat today. But I was thinking, like, is it more important for me to honor this person so that I get the position, or am I going to honor God? And as a new Christian, I'm just being transparent. Like, I was wrestling with that thought in my mind, and I just thought, I just turned to her, I said, actually, I can't eat lunch with you today because I'm doing this. And she honored that thought. I never actually got the position, doesn't matter to me. But the reality is, like, we have to live in a way, no matter what the world is going to think or say. Like, we have to honor only one person, that's our Heavenly Father. And as we do that, we will find rest and relaxation, because I think we'll feel stressed out if we're like, I think I just dishonored God with that thought. Versus, like, why would we be afraid? Who cares what the world has to say? And that's a tough pill to swallow someday, when there's people that we honor and respect, and we don't want to offend them, but man, I just want to live in the will of God. And it might look crazy to the world. It might look crazy to other people, but let's just like live it like that. So
It's the upside down kingdom that we live in, right?
Yeah.
And I think of this plaque that Melissa has in our house. It says, stay busy doing things that matter in eternity. And I'm like, man, it's so easy for us to get sucked into the trap of staying busy for the sake of, look at the great things that I'm doing. Oh, in Jesus' name,
That's
know,
right, yeah.
right? Let's not add that on there. But it's like, no, what does God say it matters in eternity?
That's right.
And something that, just a takeaway point from all of this is, where are those places that we have doubt and unbelief in our life that God won't provide? Because those are the places that we're not resting.
That's right. It's a great thought.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate, I know you watched it at home. It was a little bit different and unique for you, but it was a pleasure as always to hang out with you. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, this coming week, I really want to encourage you, as we talked about just living the Christian life and being a wonderful example. It's Thursdays, every Thursday. I don't know whether you're working, you're at home, but just take that time out. It's going to be a wonderful time for you to recharge and refresh. Take that time to pray and to fast with us every Thursday. That's just part of what we do as a church. So we'll encourage you to do that. Love you guys as always. We'll see you later.
Take care.